This is the Dallas Cowboys Pepsi Postgame Show. Pepsi, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, here's Zach Wolchuk and Brian Broaddus.
Big 2nd and 2. Prescott in the gun, fakes the inside handoff. Slants picked off. At the 50, this might be a house call. To the 30, it's Darnell Savage. All the way in, 50-yard plus return. That does not help.
That might have been the dagger. The streak ends at 16 here at AT&T Stadium as the Cowboys have an embarrassing performance to start the postseason, and it ends that way as they lose at home today to the Green Bay Packers 48-32. That pick six by Darnell Savage, a 64-yarder, made it 27-0 Green Bay. They took the ball. They went right down the field to open the game on an Aaron Jones 3-yard touchdown to make it 7-0. Dak Prescott throws an interception to Jair Alexander that set up the Packers with a short field after the defense got really what was their only punt forced the entire game. That made it 14-0 after another Aaron Jones touchdown. And then the inability to really get off the field on third downs, which was a constant defensively for the Cowboys. A 20-yard touchdown strike from Jordan Love to Dontavian Wicks made it 20-0. We thought, we went on halftime, Brian, okay, they went down on the field. You talked about the middle eight, final four to end the half, starting four to start the half. And they got a touchdown with Jake Ferguson, made it a 20-point game. We saw last year the Jacksonville Jags at home came back. And we were hoping, can this be another wild card playoff miracle? It was not to be so, as the Cowboys did get a field goal, made it 27-10, but then just absolutely no pushback by the defense whatsoever. Another touchdown from Aaron Jones made it 34-10. And then what's sad is you did get a hat trick, 3-touchdown game from Jake Ferguson, but it was a lot of empty stats as the Cowboys tried to rally, made it 48-32, made the score look a little bit better. But this is an all-timer when it comes to disappointing, embarrassing playoff losses where everything kind of fell into place. You had 2 home playoff games. You were undefeated at home this year. You're on a 16-game home winning streak. You're playing the 2 seed. You've now become the first team in NFL history to be a 2 seed and lose to the 7 seed. Hey, at least you made history in an embarrassing way.
Yeah, it's. I think the thing that in going into this game, we talked about the Packers offensively, the young quarterback, the young wide receivers. You know, that they are a team that doesn't give up a lot of pressure. The ball gets out quick. I think where Dallas really struggled in this game, and I don't think there was much rhythm offensively to start this game. I don't think Mike was in very good rhythm with Dak. There was obviously some problems with CD and Dak on some of the connections, early in this football game, and things kind of snowball from there. What's really, we've talked about this, and the Cowboys' safeties have played better. Mm-hmm. There's been times this season where, early in the season, you're kind of like, man, they need to get better at safety. They need to figure out what's going on at safety. I'm looking forward to seeing what happened. The way that the Packers attacked the middle of the field.
Yeah.
That to me was not, Romeo Doubs and all that. You're thinking he's not the guy that you're kind of worried about. There's other ones on this that I think that you could kind of point to and say, okay, I would be worried about this guy. But Doubs, they did a great job of saying Dallas's middle defense was not good at linebacker, safety, wherever. There was just too many opportunities where Jordan Love goes back. Maybe there's a pressure, and what does he do? He just launches it in the middle of the field, and you're going, oh, wow, that was a 26-yard catch. Oh, that was a 34-yard catch. Oh, that was, there's just too much of that for the Cowboys today to have to deal with. It seemed like when they had opportunities, and there were some untimely penalties that they had along the way early in this game, but it's really very evident to me that they just did not handle, and they didn't handle the running game all that well either, too. But to me, it was about their inability to play in the middle of their defense that cost them in this football game.
Yeah, Romeo Doubs had 100 yards in the first half passing. I mean, it was just wide open, really through the zone. The Musgrave touchdown,
Sure.
Nobody's covering him.
Yeah.
I mean, to your point, you come out, you did. I mean, the defense allows an opening touchdown drive, and I think everybody's thinking, okay, well, that stunk. But can you settle in at all? And there wasn't any. And the dysfunction there with Dak and CeeDee, something we hadn't seen all year long. You had the interceptions, early on. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of fans, we were pointing at, some of the officiating. You had a 3rd and 12 set up if you don't get the illegal contact from Deron Bland. But it was an inability really to get any type of rhythm offensively.
Sure.
I mean, we can look at, we can point at the statistics in the second half. It didn't matter. It really didn't. I don't care about, the numbers that Dak put up there. It was hollow. Is what it was. The comeback attempt was feeble. I mean, it seemed like the defense just said, you know what, we're packing it up, we're leaving, we're done today. That's a reflection on Dan Quinn. So you can call and we can talk about, hey, who do you want to fire? Is it Mike McCarthy? Is it going to be Dak Prescott? Does he get a big extension? Do you want to pay him? You will call and you will talk about the quarterback, 877-881-1053. But I know, Dan Quinn's been a golden boy. Your defense stunk today, plain and simple. Your defense couldn't stop Green Bay at all.
Yeah, and Dan Quinn, and you wonder, and Dan Quinn's a professional, but you wonder with all the interview requests.
Distraction? Was
there a distraction? But, no. I mean, to me, the Packers, we talked about it really all week, how the Packers kind of run the ball. It is they hand the ball to Jones, he makes a cut, but they bring a tight end or a blocker backside.
Yeah.
And then, that was just constant all day today. It was hand the ball, motion guy, block, backside, and you just never were able to really, a couple of them early, you got some stops, and then it started to kind of be really evident that, that they couldn't stop the run that well. But they really just could not take care of the ball going down the field.
Really couldn't.
Those chunk plays, I can close my eyes and I can see 87 running through the middle of the defense and 10 just turning and spinning on his back foot and launching that ball down the field.
No, you're 100%
and
right.
I don't know what the disconnect was with this defense today. It was the disconnect between linebacker, safety. The pass rush was going to be. It was not going to – I didn't think it was going to be all that great because of how the Packers protect. But, this quarterback did a great job of, he says, if I could get the ball to the middle of this – in the middle of this defense, I've got a chance for a huge play. And you mentioned about the – some of the uncovered guys. I mean, it was several where just, you wonder where that disconnect. Safety, linebackers, safety, corner. They played like a team – that really wasn't very sure of how they needed to play coverage tonight.
877-881-1053 is the number to call, the number to text here on the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. Let's pause now 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves across the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus after a Cowboys collapse here in the wild card round, 48-32. They lose to the Green Bay Packers. The Packers, again, just have the Cowboys number in the postseason. And I was hoping it was Aaron Rodgers. No, maybe it's Aaron Jones. I don't know. But the Cowboys certainly have not performed well when they've seen the green and the yellow. Postgame show brought to you by Pepsi, made for Cowboys watching. Brian, though, you brought up the big chunk plays.
Yes.
I mean, go down the list. Romeo Doubs, 46-yard catch.
Yeah.
Luke Musgrave, 38-yard catch. Dontavian Wicks, a 20-yard touchdown. Tucker Kraft, a 10-yarder. Yeah. Aaron Jones, a 13-yarder. Yeah. I mean, it was unbelievable. And this team, I mean, once they got down 14-0, they just didn't really have the type of response that you needed to have. I mean, in the second half, you allowed yourself no room for error.
Right.
None. And you had to get some stops. They weren't able to do some. They also they came out flat out of the gates on offense today. And it's a shame. I mean, you look at this team, according to ESPN Stats and Info, 2-21 under Mike McCarthy, including the playoffs when they've trailed by 14 or more points. The lone wins came in 2020, Week 2, the watermelon kick game against the Falcons, and then Week 5 against the Giants when Dak fractured his ankle.
Yeah.
And they came back and won that one. But I mean, that's a bit of a concern in a league that's kind of built for the comebacks. And Coach McCarthy's, he said that himself. Yeah. This team, when they've gotten down by double-digit points, they just have not had the type of response and resolve. Maybe that, I mean,
they couldn't get a stop.
Exactly.
See, when we were talking about what they needed to do in the second half, it was to get the ball and score. The field goal, that was disappointing to me. You go 12 plays and you kick a field goal there. It took a lot of time, and I'm like, man, you just needed to make that one quicker. It needed to be more decisive, but it needed to be a touchdown there. But, man, what we were banking on was that they would be able to get a stop in the second half, and they just could not till the game was out of hand, and they're taking their quarterback out and putting their starter back in and all that. Did they even, did Dallas even get a stop? So they didn't play particularly well defensively tonight, and that ultimately cost them. But, man, the offense's inability to put pressure. I was going into this game believing that if Jordan Love was the one that was going to throw the ball 50 times in this game or 40 times this game,
you'd win.
Dallas was probably going to win this game.
Yeah.
They were going to find a way. It was Dak Prescott that threw the ball 60 times tonight. Jordan Love only threw the ball 21 times, but it doesn't seem like any time that he threw the ball that there was a miss or anybody contesting a pass. The coverage, when you looked at some of the coverage on third down and how they were playing off, and then the fact that they weren't able to make to defend balls or to play those play the coverage that they need to play. It seemed like a really, really soft game from that aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, you came out, you punted, you got one first down on that. Then you had the interception to Jair Alexander, sets the Packers up with a short field. You have another punt. Then the pick six.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you started on offense. You didn't come out ready to play. Your scripted plays, your first 15, whatever it was bad. I mean, as you mentioned, the play calling didn't have any rhythm, any flow to it whatsoever.
Not at all.
The amount of second down runs. I mean, you're asking the penalties as well. The Sam Williams issue.
Sure.
What the hell are you doing even being close to there? DeMarcus Lawrence is playing tremendous to start the game. Then he lines up offsides. You got a chance to get them off the field. And we've talked about the issues with the penalties. And would that ever get cleaned up? And maybe it doesn't matter who your coach is. Maybe that's a Cowboy issue, and it always will be because you look at it, and that doesn't seem to change. But we've always thought, those type of mental mistakes, it's a reflection on your coach. But, nobody was able to pick themselves up by the bootstraps and dig themselves out of this one the way it unfolded.
Well, you talk about the penalties, which was funny. They had the 2-point play where they had the illegal man downfield, and then they also had the pass interference or offensive pass interference. Dak's just got to walk that ball in.
Yeah.
You just walk it.
Well, and then the sack that he took.
And
my gosh. I mean, the one thing with Dak, and everybody has a different opinion on Dak, and I know, we'll go to the phones. I'm sure the people are going to say, hey, you can't. The report came out today. They're expected to get an extension done. He's going to be the highest paid player in NFL history. I don't know that changes. We can have a serious conversation about that.
But you watch it. No, it's not just that. It's just attention to detail.
It's attention to detail.
That's what when you start.
In the losses, it piles up.
It does.
Right?
It
seems like
the penalties.
It's just a little play like that. It's the penalties. It's when you're rolling out, just throw the football away because then you're in fringe territory. Do you kick the long field goal?
Or go for it.
Or do you go for it?
Right.
When it's 3rd and 11, now you have no chance. You have to punt the football now.
Right.
So you take yourself out of that. So, I mean, it was some egregious performance today by the quarterback, by the play caller, the defense as well.
The defensive coordinator.
Really let you down. Yeah. I mean, nobody to me, and I get it. Maybe some people roll your eyes. That's true. That's balanced and fair and honest analysis. Everybody was crap today.
Yeah.
Except maybe Jake Ferguson.
Yeah. Jake Ferguson, he did show up there. But, unfortunately, like I said, Green Bay had a great game plan. They really did. If their game plan was to attack the middle of this Cowboys secondary at these safety spots and work off that, tip of the hat to them, though. They executed that with perfection.
Jordan Love was great. Yeah. And until, that incompletion.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, which kind of ruined this. He was going to be the first quarterback in NFL history. He might have gotten, along with C.J. Stroud, to have a perfect passer rating in their postseason debut.
Yeah.
I mean, he couldn't be stopped. And the defense, the way that they were running the football, we knew that Aaron Jones was going to be an issue.
Yeah.
And there just wasn't an answer for it. Very, very unfortunate.
There wasn't much answer for anything offensively that the Packers did.
And your offense also didn't have a response.
No.
Until it was too late and the game was out of reach. And then the Packers are taking their foot off the gas.
Right.
So, I mean, what can you really judge? That's cool. You get empty stats. And that's what the people that hate Dak Prescott, they're going to be like, oh, he's a stat pattern. I'm not going to argue with you today. Those stats are meaningless to me. The game was over. 877-881-1053. The number to call, the number to text. We want to hear from you. We will hear from Mike McCarthy. Looks like Jerry Jones might be talking too. We will get some Jerry Jones audio. Your quarterback, Dak Prescott. This one stings, and I feel for you. We are here to get through it together until 9:30 tonight. The official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys rolls on. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Man in motion, third down. They do blitz. He pumps. He throws it in the end zone. Touchdown over the top of Gilmore. Dontavian Wicks. And the Packers are up 3 scores.
48-32, the Packers beat the Cowboys here at AT&T Stadium. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus from the Miller Lite Club. And what is not the result that we were hoping for as the Cowboys season comes to an end. They are now the first team in NFL history to win 36 games over the course of the last 3 seasons and fail to make a championship appearance. It's becoming all too normal to have this feeling of frustration, of disappointment, of heartbreak for all the fans that are gathered here, for those that put their money and time and invest into this organization.
Mm-hmm.
And the quarterbacks have changed. The coaching staff has changed. And honestly, we can go soul-searching and we can say, hey, you need to fire McCarthy. Maybe Dak's not the guy. Do you need a new quarterback? Should you extend him? I don't know. But this trickles over 3 decades and multiple different coaches and quarterbacks. Maybe it's a fabric and a foundational organizational issue. Are you focused on the right things? I don't know. You've got the glitz and the glamour of the star and side businesses and all that comes with being a Dallas Cowboy. I mean, I don't think there's an easy answer to this. But I feel for the frustration and the heartbreak that the fans are dealing with once again.
Well, today was about the Jimmies and the Joes and some of the X's and O's too. You know, if you look at the way that the Packers, the way the Packers played, they had a great game plan offensively, defensively. They knew they couldn't go toe-to-toe with Dallas. They had to worry about Dallas's ability to make the big plays.
They did, yeah.
Down the field. And they really didn't give up anything. I mean, they really they did a great job of when they had to come up with a play on third down or come up with an interception, or get that turnover, kind of doing the things at home on the road today that Dallas usually does at home.
Yeah.
And so, it's you put a lot of hope and you think maybe things are going to fall for you right this year. The way that the Eagles played down the stretch, you win the division, you get the second seed, you get to play a team that just really snuck in, the last couple of weeks of the season. But they were a team that really, they came in, like I said, with a great plan. Got a young play caller. I mean, they've had some frustrations on that. That coach has had some frustrations at Green Bay in playoffs as well. Yep. That guy's lost some divisional games,
they also
championship
can't beat
games.
San Francisco.
Yeah, they've had some tough things. But you're right about the Dallas Cowboys right now. That it's just. And you just wonder, and I know we're going to get some audio from Jerry Jones here, and I guarantee you Jerry Jones is not going to say anything about, I haven't given any thoughts right now, this, that, and the other. The next couple of days, they will sit down and have a discussion of just the things that you just talked about. How do you have so much regular season success? How do you find the ways to win the division? How do you have things set up the way it is, and then you lose to the 7th seed?
Yeah,
those are the questions that Mike McCarthy is now going to have to answer to Jerry Jones when they meet at the end of the year. And, and that'll be in the coming days. It's probably not going to happen right now, but, in the next few days, you will start to hear things about going forward, what this organization needs to do, not only with the players they currently have or players they need to get under contract, and also this coaching staff. And Dan Quinn, he's also involved in some stuff, too, of possible interviews. Mm-hmm. So this thing can completely change when it's all said and done.
Yeah, there's probably going to be a lot of changes made.
Yeah.
I would imagine. 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. I mean, nobody was good enough. Your quarterback was not good enough.
Today he wasn't good enough.
It's a shame because you look at the entirety of the season, CeeDee Lamb, arguably the best receiver in football.
Yes.
And for whatever reason, the first half, he's got a third down opportunity lined up against Quay Walker. That's a matchup you want.
Loved it. He gets open. You get the separation.
He gets open. Ball hits him in the hands. Unfortunately, not able to catch it, right? I mean, plays that it seemed like they were making, they did not make today. The execution was an issue. And it just wasn't good enough. I mean, the performance today, really, really poor. And I'm sure in that locker room, they're looking at each other saying, "Guys, this was a bleep show. We don't recognize ourselves right now because that wasn't the team we had seen at home for the majority of the season." All right, let's go now to the phones as we've got the voice of your Dallas Cowboys, Brad Sham. Brad, after a very disappointing 48-32 Packers win over the Cowboys. None of us are feeling good right now, Brad. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's a football game, so, let's keep things in perspective. But, that's I can't remember a playoff loss more humiliating we made a list. We're trying to make a list during the game, beginning of the fourth quarter, of really disappointing playoff losses. If you lose the Super Bowl, that's disappointing, but you made the Super Bowl.
Right.
And it's disappointing if you get the championship game and lose, but you made it to the championship game. I think there are, the two games. Well, the one in 16 where they were so good against the run all year, and they won a wild card game. Then they went out to L.A. and the Rams just ran it down their throat.
Right.
That was disappointing. But as Babe pointed out, that was an 8-point game, and they kind of tightened that up. I go back to '79. They really thought they were a Super Bowl team, and they lost to the Rams at Texas Stadium in the Staubach's last game, as it turned out. And I know Tex Schramm felt definitely they'd have won the Super Bowl if they hadn't lost that game. And the two in the Chan Gailey years, 98, 99, those were disappointing because, you really weren't in those very much. There's one or two others that they're all disappointing. But this one, they just never seem to be, and you just said it, Zach, it's not the team we saw all year long. Mm-mm. And that's what surprises me. You can fall behind. I even said that. Brian will verify that I even said in the pregame, hey, at some point they're going to be trailing in the game.
Yeah. Sure.
But they just never – I expected them to come back. Maybe you fall down 10-0 and score, and now you start slugging it out a little bit. That penalty that kept the first drive going. They had them off the field.
Sure.
But that's too early to say that's a game changer. The pick six was a game changer. I thought that was – I'm not sure they ever got over that hurdle, but I think when you pull the lens back, big picture, it's incredibly disappointing and surprising that they did not have the mental wherewithal to fight harder than they did and stay in the game. And for the defense, I mean, the Packers, I think I had their first 7 possessions, they scored 6 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's hard to win a football game when you're doing that, and that's not how they played all year. And those things are really disappointing.
Brad, I felt like watching the game today, especially on the defensive end for the Cowboys, that the Packers had a clear understanding of trying to attack the middle of what Dallas's defense, between that spot between the linebackers and the safeties. It's like they said, listen, we can throw the ball at the middle of this, even if we're just launching it off our back foot and making those you only live once type of throws. It seemed like that was the area that they felt like that they could really take advantage of the Cowboys today.
And they did. And, Brian, you and I talked about Jordan Love in the pregame. I mean, he's been as hot a quarterback over the last 2 months as there's been, and he was flawless today.
Right.
And then we were both worried about Aaron Jones, and it turned out for good reason, because they couldn't come close to containing him when they had to. And I think that you're pointing out one of the things that is so disappointing, that they just didn't have an answer for that. I mean, you can't be surprised if a good team does something well, but then you have to be able to say, okay, well, then we'll counter by doing this. And they never had that answer. That's what's disappointing. They've got some organizational questions to answer now. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Brad, maybe this is an unfair question. Dan Quinn, and rightfully so, Dan Quinn, a lot of teams want to talk about Dan Quinn as their head coach. Dan Quinn distracted this week? Defense distracted this week?
No, I can't believe that. Dan's been through it.
Sure.
I don't know if he expected Seattle to come open. But
sure.
No, I would never believe, knowing what I know about those players and Quinn, no, I cannot believe for a minute that the way they played had anything to do with Quinn being distracted or the players being distracted about losing him. because some of their contracts are up and they're not going to sign them.
Sure.
And some of them are not going to have the opportunity to go with Quinn. They're here. And so I don't see DeMarcus Lawrence being distracted by that stuff. I don't see Gilmore and Lewis being distracted by that stuff. I don't see Odigizua being distracted by that stuff. And so I really don't think that's a part of what happened.
Brad Sham with us here in the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. You know, the questions heading into the offseason, you're absolutely right. What is top of mind for you when the questions are asked about this Cowboys team after 2023?
This is as unfair in the big picture as it can get. But if you put yourself in the position of being the owner and the general manager, you have to make sure you have the right head coach. He's already done things that haven't been done here in 30 years. 3 straight 12-win seasons, 3 straight playoff appearances. He's unquestionably succeeded. And he's not here to do that, and he'd be the first one to say it. They're trying to win a championship and not get knocked out in the first round. And believe me, they're tired of it.
Right.
And so when you have some people out there who, I mean, I think he'd be a bad businessman if he did not say to himself, I would say not just Jerry, but, you know, Jerry, Stephen, Will, if they didn't sit there in a room and say, do we have the right head coach? Do we have the right schemes? Do we have the right coordinators? Do we need to change that? Because we're going to have to change some players. That's inevitable. Right. So I think those are the questions that they have to answer very quickly so that they can go forward with personnel decisions.
Brad, thank you again.
And you can say it's unfair to McCarthy, and that might be true, but I also think it's real life.
It is. That's absolutely facts. And Brad, thank you again for giving us your time after every post game.
Yes.
Get home safely. I know we didn't want it to end so soon, but you're the best, my friend. And take care. We'll catch up with you, I'm sure, in training camp.
I always enjoy it. Talk to you soon.
There he goes, the voice of your Dallas Cowboys, Brad Sham, brought to you by WinStar. As the casino of the Dallas Cowboys, WinStar knows what it means to be a star. With over 10,000 of your favorite electronic games, the all-new 2-story WinStar Spawn Cascades, our luxury pool complex, WinStar really is the place to feel like a star. Please game responsibly. Jerry's only comments before he took questions addressing the fans, and he said that he just doesn't have an answer right now. He has no answers. And they thought that this thing, they've got the quarterback to do it. They certainly have a head coach in place that they've got a good relationship in. And you saw positive changes, we thought, with the offense. Your defense, we looked at it as a strong suit for the majority of the season, was completely terrible today.
It was, yeah.
And they've got to go and figure out exactly what they want to do. There's a lot of questions. They'll have meetings to do this and kind of do a deep dive into the structure of what they want to do. But certainly right now it is a terrible, terrible taste. I know they are heartbroken and disappointed, as are we. 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. I know a lot of you are already waiting on hold. We will talk with our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt, and then we will get to you. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
I'm Darren Woodson, former Dallas Cowboys.
Jones is back at running back, and on third down, Love is in the gun. They'll hand it inside to Jones. Close for a first down, close to the goal line, touchdown. Aaron Jones, the Packers, aided by 2 penalties, take the opening possession and drive for a score.
2 big penalties, and that really has been the theme of the Cowboys season. When it comes to the penalty issue, that was not one that we felt would get corrected, and it certainly didn't today, as that is one of the many reasons the Cowboys had arguably the most embarrassing, disappointing playoff loss in the history of the franchise, 48-32. Their season comes to an end with a thud against the Green Bay Packers. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus. Dak Prescott is talking to the media right now. We will get that to you. But Jerry Jones just finishing. I know a lot of people wanting to know, what does Jerry have to say after this one? Here is your owner and general manager.
I don't have any comments or questions or answers for how and why we didn't do what we wanted tonight. I say this to our fans, how much you deserve us to not have this ending. I certainly in no way have spent any of my time over the last 3 hours asking how and why. What I'm zeroed in on is the fact that I thought we were in a position, everybody in this room thought we were in a position to advance this thing in the playoffs and maybe get as far as our dreams might take us. We didn't do it. I don't have any thoughts about the reasons why or anything to do with the coaching, anything to do about the players. I want to give Green Bay a lot of compliments and credit. This is one of my most surprises since I've been involved in sport, period. So this is that degree. I know how disappointed everybody is. That's all my comment.
In terms of playoff losses, where does this one rank for you?
Well, I don't have really. I can't reach back and look at a playoff loss, but this seems like the most painful because we all had such great expectation and we had hope for this team, and thought that we were aligned in great shape, and it didn't happen for us, and it's as fresh on me right now as it is on anybody else. But I won't get into any of the addressing of any aspects of any part of it, from the coaching to the players to what's around the corner. On a personal basis, I'm floored, and so not that there's any world's smallest violin for me being floored. I get that, I understand that, and I know where the responsibility starts and ends, and I've got that real clear, and I know that. But that's not the point. The point is that I'm disappointed for everybody.
When will you sit down with Mike and kind of talk about everything?
I haven't thought about that.
Jerry, are you concerned at all that your comments last week in Washington may have been a distraction from Mike McCarthy?
That what?
That your comments last week in Washington may have been a distraction from Mike McCarthy?
No. No, not at all.
For people who, and the fans specifically, who might want to have questions about the head coaching direction, whether it's Mike McCarthy or moving forward, do you find it's important to give yourself time, or do you think that you'll be making a decision sooner rather than later?
When I think about it, which I haven't thought 1 second about it, I know how hard, how much it meant to our fans to advance. What this loss to me means, again, I opened up by saying not how, why, who didn't do what, all of that kind of thing. The only thing that was on my mind almost this entire game was not an analysis of our strategy, not an analysis of the play. It was, do we get to play here again next week? And we can't. And that could have happened by a point, or it could have happened the way it happened out there. And that's all I'm thinking about, and that's all I've thought about. And it is real, and we'll dismiss our group, our team tomorrow. That's as real as it gets.
A very disappointed Jerry Jones after a 48-32 Cowboys loss at home to the Green Bay Packers. Jerry, brought to you by the National Medal of Honor Museum. Join the mission at mohmuseum.org, and AT&T, the official 5G innovation partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Zach Wolchuk and the Super Bowl winning scout Brian brought us back here at the Miller Lite Club, joined by our Cowboys insider Bobby Belt. Bobby, man, we just heard from Jerry there. Your initial thoughts from listening to the owner and the general manager?
I mean, this is clearly as disappointed as he's been in a long time. I think it's the fact that he talks, I think, is important, because a lot of times when he's either too angry or too depressed about something, he just will not talk. So that means he at least feels like he was able to compose himself a little bit to talk about those things. But, man, I don't know. I think that this coaching staff is going to look very different in about 48 hours. That's what I think. And there's a lot to be settled here. And you do not have the same vote of confidence that you've heard given to the head coach over the last year. Is that sometimes we feel like, oh, is it what's that language he's using this time around? He has not had a problem saying, no, he's great. I'm going to be back, or we're going to do this or that. He didn't say that tonight. He said, I haven't thought about any of it, and I'm not going to comment on any of it.
Do you think in the coming days, Bobby, and we all know Green Trash Bag Day is tomorrow, they will go in there, they will have their exit meetings, their exit physicals, they'll collect their belongings, the ones that are on one-year deals or contracts are up will remove their stuff, and this team will look remarkably different. But do you think in the coming days, does Mike McCarthy have to go into Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones and sell himself on why he should be back?
I don't think that this is something that's within his power. I think if they want to do it, they're going to do it, and I don't think they're going to say.
Is that because? Do you think that's because maybe some of the candidates that are out there right now, if and I think like long shots, like a Bill Belichick,
sure,
but a Mike Vrabel, somebody like that. I mean, is this, or maybe there's somebody else that they're looking at? But I wonder, is it? Are they going to? Would they take their time on this? Or are we going to, in the next coming days, he'll say, no, we had our meetings, we're going to go forward, we'll see what happens with Dan Quinn and him going somewhere.
It's interesting. They didn't take a lot, or they took a methodical approach with Jason Garrett when they finally moved on from him. Remember, out there at the start for like 4 days in this weird limbo spot.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know if this would be as difficult of a decision for them. It may not even be a difficult decision at all. Maybe he just doesn't want to talk about it and he hasn't made anything. I just think that what you saw out there on the field is completely unacceptable. And I think Jerry probably believes that's completely unacceptable. And there was a lot of, let's be honest, second half of that game, there looked like there was a lot of quit on that field.
Yes.
That there wasn't a lot of interest in, running out the ground ball to first base. This is something where a lot of guys, and it started very early. What did we talk about all week? What did we talk about all year with this Cowboys team? Is dumb penalties, attention to detail, the little things, and right out of the gate, okay, you get a sack, but, there's an illegal contact. You get down the field, you got them in a 3rd and 7. DeMarcus Lawrence jumps offside, then they get the touchdown. You get the Sam Williams penalty. You get the Dak interception. It's just, and what did we see on the second interception from Dak? It is that classical, he didn't see him sitting there. It was
underneath.
Tunnel vision.
Yep.
And so, everything that has bit them in different moments throughout the season was all there tonight getting them. And I think that it's a nice summation of what has been, a consistent 12-6 type of football team. They're the 12-5 team that's going to lose as soon as they get in the playoffs. And that is their MO right now. And there's got to be, I think, regardless of if Mike McCarthy stays here or the coaching staff stays here, there's got to be a shift in the culture.
Yes.
There's got to be some sort of change there. Even if it's the same coaches in place, you have to change what has become, what is a culture that it feels like has led to several years now of just poor discipline, moments where there's questions about toughness or whatever, or in terms of physicality. I just think there's a lot of questions here that need to be answered, and I don't know that you can get all the answers you want to those questions by just saying, let's run it back.
What were some of the things, you talk about the performance and the game itself as we kind of dive through that, but what were some of the most surprising things that turned out in this game? Because I don't think any of us saw the defense. One, they didn't collect a sack for the first game all year. Defense was terrible, but offensively, at least we felt, all right, they might be trending in the right direction, especially Dak and CeeDee. I mean, how bizarre was that the first half between the two of them?
Yeah, that was bizarre. Dak just looked, I'll say this, Dak looked rattled in the first half.
Did.
Like he looked, usually he's got steely nerves when he's making decisions. There's still a lot of confidence. He did not look certain of what he was seeing out there. And
what could have rattled him going into a game like this?
I don't know. I honestly
because
have
we
no
talked
clue.
about how you would attack Green Bay. And really the plan that Green Bay used against you to attack the middle of the field, you should have been attacking the middle of the field for
they didn't attack the way we anticipated. They went out there and they tried to run the ball early, and even after they started falling down, they were running on 2nd and long and running into now we're in 3rd and 5 situations. And look, their third down efficiency wasn't like the biggest problem tonight. I think at one point tonight they were like 7 of 10 on 3rd down. I don't know where they finished for the game, but the 3rd down efficiency wasn't the problem. But like just in general, this felt like a game where we were like, you can go on the attack and you can take advantage of some things here, and they didn't do that. They tried to do some different things with the run game for some reason and allowed themselves to fall down, and then allowed Green Bay to say, okay, we're just going to keep letting Aaron Jones do what he does to you. And man, this is just consistently – I know we are all big fans of Dan Quinn and what Dan Quinn's done for 3 years here, but I mean, this is a game that Dan Quinn's got to wear in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
He got out-coached tonight. They all got out-coached.
Well, that's what I had one of my NFL guys, one of my gang of sevens, like, how does Dan Quinn get a job from this? I mean, how do you, if you're a team, how do you sell Dan Quinn? I mean, after something like this, but Dan Quinn's done. I mean, it's a shame that one game like this, but they just did not have any answers tonight for Green Bay's offense.
No, and it was something where it was just, again, I think when you watch it, you see bad penalties, low IQ reads at times. You see
just breakdown of lack of coverage.
I mean,
just lining up and covering somebody.
Look, I mean, the touchdown, was it Musgrave that caught that touchdown? That was just, there was nobody within 40 yards of him.
Right.
Like there's no way that should happen. And I mean, there were these instances of just Jordan Love kind of hanging around, dropping back, and then throwing off his back foot on a 3rd and 8, and then he's throwing to somebody who has nobody around him. It just felt like it felt like a thoroughly unprepared football team.
Yes, and you're right, and I know we're up against it, and you don't want to overreact to one game, but is it just today, though? I mean, you look at the big games this year that this team played, that was the knock on them. They couldn't win the big games. They got killed in San Francisco. Defense was bad. Offense was bad. Dan Quinn was not good. Buffalo, defense was horrible. Offense was also bad. Dan Quinn was not good. I don't think it might be an isolated one-game incident. If you look big picture against the better teams, they didn't show up.
Well, the
they
Detroit game, though, with the
Detroit
exception
at home,
the exception of the final drive.
Yes.
They played really well against Detroit.
They did.
With the exception of the final drive.
They did.
Yeah, they have had several instances, though, obviously, where the defense has not stepped up when you need them to most. And like I said, there were a lot of silly things. I'll tell you what surprised me. The very first 3 plays of this game, I was like, this might be a difficult game for Green Bay. Yeah. They had 3 negative plays on their first 3 plays. They had DeMarcus Lawrence stopping the run. Then it was Jordan Love getting sacked, which got reversed by the illegal contact. And then the very next play, there was another 3-yard loss on a run. It felt like, okay, the defense came to play. And then it was completely downhill after that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they had the penalty under on Bland for illegal contact. Would have set up a 3rd and 12. And then after that, it just all went Green Bay's way. Yeah. It really, really did. Bobby, thank you so much, buddy. We love you.
I love you all.
All right, your calls, your texts. I know we got to get through this together. I've been teasing it for the last hour. We've had a lot to get to. We got Dak Prescott. We got Mike McCarthy. We will hear from you, though. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
People will always come and go.
With a play fake, boots back to
Wide
his left,
open.
throws back down the right side. Musgrave's all alone at the 15, down the sideline, to the pylon. Touchdown, Green Bay.
One of several touchdowns the Packers had in their 48-32, really just beat down of our Dallas Cowboys. It's gut-wrenching, and it's another season that failed as this team they just came out and laid a total egg in front of the world to see in the playoffs.
So much ahead of them, too, you know?
They did.
Yeah.
Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus from the Miller Lite Club, about to get to the phones, but you're right. And I said this on the G-Bag Nation, which you can hear 2 to 7 on the flagship 105.3 The Fan. You know, this was it. The time is now. There's not any more excuses. You had this laid out to it. And I wasn't even saying make it to the Super Bowl. Just get to a conference championship game where you hadn't been in 28 years. You were so good at home. You were the best team in the sport at home. And things laid out. You took part of your effort as well. But with what happened to the Eagles, it laid out perfectly where you got the 2 seed. You had the opportunity to host 2 playoff games, and now you just became the first team since they expanded the playoffs and added a 7th wildcard team to lose said game. I don't know that you're ever going to have an opportunity to seize everything, which was their motto, like they just dropped and fumbled and farted away.
Well, they in 2016, though, they had the number 1 overall seed, and Green Bay came kind of limping in here as well.
They did, and in 2007, I think just what makes those not – I mean, they were bad. They were heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But it's just how bad you were beaten today. Like, this game
today,
wasn't
you were never in this one.
Yeah, this didn't take an
were.
amazing Jared Cook sideline pass from Aaron Rodgers. This wasn't a controversial Dez no-catch away. It wasn't a, oh, man, Patrick Creighton dropped the ball, and then Romo throws a YOLO, R.W. McCorders intercepts it in 2007. Like, this game was pretty much – it felt over halfway through the second quarter with the way they came out and performed.
Yeah. I think after the pick 6, that's when I went, oh, geez, no. You know, and my hope was the missed extra point would somehow haunt them. But what I was thinking there is, like, somehow they're going to have to stop these guys in the second half. And they really never ever did that.
They couldn't do it.
So my halftime adjustments were, you know, trying to find a way to win the middle 8 and then get 2 stops and get back into this. And I should have known better than that because today they weren't stopping Green Bay.
Let's pause 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves across the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
I want to get to the phones, brought to you by AT&T, the official 5G innovation partner of the Dallas Cowboys and blockchain. Trust the team at blockchain.com to make buying, selling, and trading crypto easy. Play smarter, not harder with blockchain.com. We will hear from the head coach and the quarterback here as well, but you've been waiting a long time to sound off, and this is your time to get off all that frustration that's on your chest, and we're here for you until 9:30 on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus. We start with Kevin in Chicago. Kevin, I'm not even going to ask how you're doing. I imagine it's not good, but what's up?
No, oh my God, thank you for taking my call. Long-time listener. First, I want to sit there and say, yes, it was a very horrible game that we watched today. I don't even think the players even showed up. You've got to, I blame the coaches. It all starts up from the top, from Jerry Jones. As long as he's in control of everything, we'll never get to any kind of playoff or a Super Bowl. And then it goes down from the coaching to the players. No one showed up today. It was just awful looking at that game and trying to see what we could have done better.
Thank you for the call, Kevin. I appreciate it, man. And, you know, we'll see. There'll be changes made, and we'll see the changes in the coming 24 hours maybe, or what happens going into the offseason.
Longer, yeah. I think they'll be longer on that.
Take a little bit of time.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, you know, heck, they let go of Jason Garrett, and he hung around his office for like 4 or 5 days. Kind of like, you know, taking calls and still like making copies and stuff when even they'd said, hey, you know, by the way, Jason, you're no longer with us here. So, yeah, don't expect anything to be done very quickly here, you know, on the Dallas Cowboys side of things.
Let's go to Kyle in Big Springs. Kyle, what do you got?
Hey, guys. Y'all's always spot on in y'all's analysis, and I appreciate the job that y'all do. But I'm going to use my wife's famous line, you can't be disappointed if you don't expect anything. And y'all pretty much laid it out. It's become the normal. what we do expect. And, you know, and y'all have even pointed out the reasons to expect a loss. You know, we lead the league in penalties. And, you know, it's like I told my sons, if they go to Buffalo and they go to Miami and show that they're a team, then you got something to, you know, be disappointed about if they lose in playoffs. But when you can't go and put up a showing there, then, you know, it's just there's a lot of issues that they got to look at in the off season. Yeah. And I appreciate y'all listening.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
No, thank you, Kyle. And I guess it's just the hamster wheel as a fan. You know, you say every year, like, oh, I'm not going to get my hopes up. But again, I mean, this just kind of laid out the way to where I thought the way that they're playing, but the way that they played in this building at AT&T Stadium, it had a chance to be different, even if the team maybe wasn't different. And then who knows? You go on the road in the NFC Championship game, probably would have been the same result. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for giving in again and eating the cheese. Andrew in El Paso. Andrew, what's up?
Hey, how y'all doing? I just wanted to thank you guys for doing the show all season and give credit to Mr. Broadus for the warnings all week, because I feel like the whole media in Dallas and the fans, we all drank that Kool-Aid and thought we were going to roll this Packers team. And I just wanted to, you know, direct this question towards Mr. Broadus. You've known Mr. Jones through the.
Oh, we might have lost you there, Andrew. You can go ahead and maybe give us a call back. And
do you think he was going to ask me? I've known Mr. Jones through the years. Mm-hmm. What do I think Jerry's going to do?
Yeah.
Can I try and answer that?
I'll ask you that. Yeah, what do you think Jerry's going to do, Brian?
You know, I really do. I think Jerry is going to go home. He's going to sit down. It's going to be probably hard for him to sleep, but he's going to sit there and he's going to kind of play through this through his head again. And then in the morning he'll get up and he'll deal with Steven and others, and you know, they'll do their business of getting the team moved on, moved out, and then think about, okay, you know, they'll have meetings, you know, and talk about, maybe sit down and watch the tape and kind of have an explanation of why things happened and go through all that. I think it's going to take a little time for him to, you know, meet with Mike in a way of like, okay, this is my decision. This is what we need to do. If you don't do this time around, then maybe we need to move on from that. Mike's going to have to probably agree on some things. You know, there was a lot of positive things they did with the offense, though. Dak did play at an MVP level the majority of the season. After the San Francisco
after the bye week.
So, you know, there's positive things that you can look at in that regard. But, you know, again, the Dan Quinn stuff, what's going to happen with Dan Quinn? Is Dan Quinn going to now start all these interviews, and is he going to go? You know, there might be a side of the organization it's like, listen, Dan going, that's probably right now, it's probably a good thing, you know. And so there's a lot of moving parts going on, but I think that Jerry is this is not going to be one of those quick decisions. This is going to be, he's going to probably take 2 or 3 days, kind of figure some things out, and then maybe you'll start to hear the whispers of like, okay, they're making a coaching change, and guys like Belichick and Vrabel and others are being mentioned as possibilities. You know, and Jerry will reach out to people that he trusts. He'll reach out to a Jimmy Johnson or reach out to others around the league that he has the respect of, and try and make the best decision possible.
Let's go to Jeff in, I believe, South Lake Carroll. Jeff, how you doing?
Hey, Zach, Brian. This is actually Jeff from Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City. Okay, there we go.
Yes, sir. I just great to be on with you guys. I love listening to you guys on the Odyssey app. I've been a fan since I was 8 years old. I'm 38. Right now, I can't. I'm not mad. I'm not sad. You're just kind of indifferent. I don't know what to think. I've listened to Brian all throughout the week. I think, like he said, can't take this Packers team lightly. They're a good team. They're a good football team. Yeah. And this kind of goes back to preparation, I think. I don't think this coaching staff had these Cowboys prepared. Sure. It seemed like Mike McCarthy went into his shell again with the slant flat routes pretty consistently throughout the first half, just like they did the first 5 games of the year. And we're going to, you know, our boy Dan Quinn just I mean, the defense did not show up whatsoever. So
Sure didn't.
I kind of want to talk about, like, the front office. The front office does deserve some blame, too. I'll give Mike McCarthy his flowers. 3 12-5 win seasons in a row is great. But we go back to the interview process. They interviewed Mike McCarthy and Marvin Lewis. Yeah. You got to cast a wide net in this league with the way that it's turning. I mean, they interviewed 2 people to come up with this Mike McCarthy head coaching decision, and that's just, in my opinion, that was not good. I think that we have to do better with that within the front office, and if they decide to change the coaching staff, I hope Jerry Jones does that this time. So I'd like your guys' thoughts on that, specifically you, Brian, who's been in the front office before. I really value your guys' opinion. So thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, if I was any good, I'd still be in the front office.
He had a pretty good run, man.
I had a pretty decent run.
He did.
But, you know, the thing about it is that with Mike, I think that Mike has got to go in there with Jerry in the meeting they have, and he's got to convince Jerry or talk Jerry through, okay, why? Why is this? Why why do we find ways to win 12 games, win the division, and then get in the playoffs and completely fall apart? You know, they fell apart. They fell apart on, the San Francisco was, I think a lot of it had to do with the injury. The quarterback didn't play particularly well. You know, they got a great win at Tampa, last year. I mean, so you kind of felt like that maybe they were going to turn the corner on this thing. But I think Mike has got to go in there and really convince Jerry, like, why do we need to keep doing it this way? And maybe Mike has some ideas. And if Jerry doesn't like that, then he could say, or maybe he's made up his mind and said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move on, Mike, and here where we're at, right? This is where we're at right now. So, I think that Mike has to come into Jerry and Steven and kind of talk them through what his thoughts are about the season. And because Mike can get really defensive. The questions, remember Mike, people are asking Mike questions about the lack of a running game. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, nobody's talking about, we're one of the better offensive teams. Everybody's worrying about the running game. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody's talking, he gets a little defensive about that. But I would think that Jerry is very open to having a discussion with Mike McCarthy and saying, what is different from the last 3 years? What is different than, in the playoffs for us?
Yeah.
What is the common denominator problem for us?
Right.
And if Jerry doesn't think he gives a good enough answer, then I could see Jerry Jones making a decision and saying, you know what, I'm going to get somebody in here who is going to be a difference maker in these playoff games. Because Jerry feels like I've got a talented enough team.
Yeah.
I've won the division, 2 out of the last 3 years? Mm-hmm. I kind of feel like that I've got a good enough team. And this year should have been a team that, with all that's going on in the NFC, this was their opportunity. That's why I think he's so disappointed right now.
Right. I mean, you look around, there's been other years where there's Hall of Fame quarterbacks in the conference.
Yes.
And this year, I mean, you look up and there isn't. I mean, you've got what arguably is the best quarterback in the conference. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't believe in Brock Purdy. He's a product of the offense. He's a product of an excellent, talented team around him. Jared Goff, maybe Matthew Stafford is, sure. All right, sure. Stafford's won a Super Bowl, and Goff's had a great year, but there just wasn't that juggernaut quarterback or somebody that was standing in your way.
You beat the Lions,
yes,
and you beat the Rams.
So that's what really makes this thing just. And then also, 3 years, you never win a game when you're down by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
you're never able to come back. I mean, there's something to be said about. We talked about Dan Quinn and his ability to make adjustments in game. When things aren't working for the offense, are there adjustments made? And your OC is also your head coach, so he's got to go ahead and ask questions for that as well.
The defensive coordinator was bad today too.
Today he was.
He didn't really have an answer. He did not have an answer for what they were doing over there on the Green Bay side.
And it seems like the Achilles heel. If you go back, and I've seen a lot of people mentioning this, but. Yeah, I mean the Mike Shanahan tree is very long, and Kyle's on there, and then McDaniel and McVay, LaFleur is part of this, right? All of those guys have caused Dan Quinn's defense's problems.
Sure.
That system as a whole, he does need to find an answer for. All right, we'll get back to your calls and texts, plus Dak Prescott, Mike McCarthy. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
When you need a win in the field, trust the equipment that supports your team on the field.
center. Handoff. Jones starts left, cuts right. Hot knife through butter. Walks in. Green Bay touchdown.
Aaron Jones was brilliant again at AT&T Stadium against the Cowboys as he had 118 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns.
He's a tough runner.
He is.
Yeah.
And he's really, really good in this building, the Texas El Paso product. And 48-32, the Packers defeat the Cowboys as the 2023 season comes to a thud, as all of the hopes that we had this morning have really just turned into heartbreak. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus here in the Miller Lite Club. We'll get back to your phones momentarily, but Mike McCarthy took the podium following the loss, and here is your losing head coach.
David. Hi, Mike. David Moore, Dallas Morning News. This was so uncharacteristic for how you played this year. How do you characterize what happened out there today?
Number one, we're very disappointed to a man. I don't think anybody saw this coming. I mean, you got to give Green Bay credit. They came in there hot, and this what you saw on film over the past month. They executed and we didn't. So we didn't get any of the phases. And then, I just, we're hurting. We're disappointed. Every man.
Clarence Hill, Post Telegram. Defensively, it seemed like, Love seemingly did what he wanted. Can you just explain the wide open receivers and him really no pressure on him at all?
I think, clearly the best thing they did, in my opinion, coming in was the deep play action game. And then, obviously the protection was there. He was able to buy time, extend plays. And, we just, we gave up too many of them.
Mike, Tim Kalishaw, Dallas Morning News. Jerry had said we'll take it game by game regarding your job status. Do you think this could lead to a coaching change?
I think the biggest thing is, we're disappointed. I got a whole team in the locker rooms that's hurting, and that's I haven't thought past the outcome of this game.
Was there a point in the game where you just thought your team was flat and couldn't?
No, I wouldn't say we were flat. There was energy. There was, they made more plays than we did. So, the big play production was we were -3 at halftime, and we just, we didn't make enough. We didn't get the stops, and didn't get it to a 2-score game quick enough. But turnovers, all the things we did. Like I said, we did not play to our capabilities. The way we've been playing, particularly at home, and we're disappointed.
Mike, just 2 real quick. What, like you say, given the unexpected nature of this, what was your message to the team afterwards?
I think, just express the reality where we are. I mean, this is a hurtful loss. We put ourselves in position to play a home playoff game. We had a great opportunity. Felt really good about the week of preparation. We thought we matched up well, but we didn't. We clearly picked the wrong day to have a bad day.
That Dak had been playing at such a high level for such an extended period, him and CeeDee especially, just about his game and start tonight just seemed to be.
Well, I think like anything, you're always trying to get your quarterback into a rhythm. It took a little longer than I would have liked. Then we had the 2 turnovers that factored into points. We didn't slow them down on defense. Once again, we did some good things in the return game, but like I said, there's we didn't get it done in any of the phases.
All 3 phases, they executed. You didn't.
Throw in phase 4, which is the coaching.
Yep, the coaching.
Yeah, I mean, because this is really a team loss that way.
Yep.
Too, because he talked about preparation stuff, and obviously they had a plan. They had a plan for how they wanted to attack Green Bay, and they couldn't get to their plan quick enough, or they couldn't, when they started with their plan, they couldn't execute it well enough. So. Yeah. And he's right. They couldn't stop him on defense. They had no answer for Green Bay the way that Green Bay was attacking you. Between the way that Green Bay was running the ball, the plays that they were making in the flat, the play action passes. He talks about the chunk plays. We talked about that from the jump. That was attack in the middle of the field. Obviously, they felt like that they could take advantage of their safeties, the Cowboys safeties, whether that's Curse, whether that's Hooker. They could take advantage of that. And it was clear that they were able. To me, that's where the ball was going. When they were looking for a chunk play, it was throw it down the middle of the field and see if one of these Cowboys safeties could make a play. And the play action, that'll draw you up on it. But this is not an all 3 phase. This is an all 4 phase.
Yep, absolutely.
Because Dan didn't have an answer. Mike didn't have an answer. Their team didn't have an answer.
Yep.
So that's the disappointing part of this loss.
And certainly the play on the field was reflective of that. The quarterback was really bad in the beginning of the football game,
Yes.
and that puts you behind the 8 ball.
And the star wide receiver wasn't great either.
The fact that they're not – and CeeDee didn't talk after the game.
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks did. And I believe he was, saying like there wasn't any issue between Dak and CeeDee. They just didn't execute, right? I mean, which it's the first time we've seen anything quite like that since the bye week. I mean, the two of them were just making sweet music together.
Well, there was a time, it was at, it wasn't this year, but we've seen before where Dak, remember CeeDee, I think it was last year, where CeeDee, it was the Giants game, where all of a sudden he's struggling.
And then the fourth quarter.
And then all of a sudden the third quarter, he starts,
Yeah.
and then next thing you know, he's catching every single pass.
Yeah.
CeeDee is a very emotional player. And that early drop that he had on third down, that didn't help.
No.
And then the ball that went to the outside where it looked like he just misplayed. It wasn't exactly right on his, but his helmet high, and it goes through his hands. Out there, runs like a curl and coming back for the ball, and it goes through, and you're like, going, what the hell is going on here today?
It is just it's tough because in these losses, I mean, they've just ended up being such blowouts and so bad. It's a snowball effect.
Right.
And at some point, you kind of need, whether it's an individual player or a coach, whoever it is, somebody's got to kind of step up and stop it. Yeah. Like, this isn't happening, guys. This isn't us. We need to find a way to rally and bounce back and respond. Yeah, Micah on defense, whether it's Dak on offense. But this team lacks that.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't. I think you're on to something, because especially with the losses and then the bad losses, it just seems like there's nobody there that kind of can grab the team by the jersey and kind of pull them through to get them back on track.
877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. We'll get back to your phones. Plus, we will hear from your quarterback. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
We've all seen it at games. A fan holds up a sign that says, "Believe." Well, Ford offers vehicles you can believe in. Like
Prescott in the gun. Snap back. They're going to run it. No, they're going to throw it out to Ferguson. And he's into the end zone for a touchdown. Great play fake inside by Prescott. Pulled it back, threw it out to Ferguson. And the Cowboys are on the board.
That was our drive of the game, brought to you by Ford, your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas right before the half. Cowboys go on a 12-play, 55-yard drive that took 1 minute and 50 seconds, and it was that play which was really beautifully designed. Dak rolling out, hits a wide-open Jake Ferguson for the first of what would be his 3 touchdown passes that he caught today, as Fergie Big Biscuit ends what was an outstanding second season for him. But the Cowboys fall short today, 48-32. Their season ends at the hands of the Green Bay Packers yet again, this time in the NFC wild card round. Zach Wolchuk alongside Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus of the Miller Lite Club. We'll get back to your phones here in just a moment. We do have audio from CeeDee Lamb, which we can get to in a little bit.
That. Yeah.
We got Ferguson as well, and of course some of your defensive players. But your quarterback took the podium, and here was Dak Prescott after a disappointing wild card defeat.
David Moore, Dallas Morning News. After what this team did at home this year and the last 2 years, just how do you put into words the frustration with your performance individually and also this team when it wasn't able to do today?
Yeah, I mean, frustrated, as you just said, is the great word for my play. The way that we came out here and we started this game and then just shocked, honestly. From the beginning of the game, we got beat. There's no other which way around it, no way to sugarcoat it. Obviously, I didn't play well, and shock.
Did you feel off early? I mean, even from the first throw to seed on third down, obviously there was a connection there. But how did you feel going into the game, and why were you not in rhythm, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, no, I felt great. Wish I had that answer for you, honestly. Maybe my mind was moving, which I think in that sense a little faster than my body was, right? Just being prepared and, getting from one to another, maybe a second too fast or half a second too fast. And with that, right, the ball jumps a little bit more. Obviously, just we're talking about it, knew I was going to have enough spin on the ball, right, in the sense about bringing it down, I guess, when I needed to and didn't early. And then by the time that I did, it was too late.
Dak, Todd Archer with ESPN. You guys have had these seasons before and have had this playoff disappointment. How do you get past this? What has to happen?
Wish I had that answer for you, honestly. I mean, yeah.
Calvin
Watkins, Dallas Morning News. As you know, there's going to be speculation about your coach and his status. Your thoughts about Mike and everything he's done this year?
Yeah, he's been amazing. I don't know how there can be, but I understand the business. In that case, it should be about me as well, honestly. I mean, that guy, I've had the season that I've had because of him. This team has had the success that they've had because of him. And I understand it's about winning the Super Bowl, and that's the standard of the league and damn sure the standard of this place. So I get it, but add me to the list in that case.
Ed Werder, ESPN. What's it like mentally and emotionally to go from 3 hours ago you think it's all set up for you to go as far as you've ever been in the playoffs, and now you go all the way back to square one, off-season program, and all that to get back here again?
Yeah, it's a shock, as I said to begin with. Damn sure didn't think this is where we'd be. As far as anything, I can promise you, scheduling, myself, this team, this organization, that this would be it. Credit to those guys. They came out here and handled business, and no disrespect to those guys going in, but that was just the confidence that this group had and what we've done, and damn sure what we've done at home. So, it'll take a little bit more time to digest it completely, to be honest with you, but stunned.
Jacob Dettemore with the ticket. Do you feel like in the second quarter when you guys got down a couple of scores that maybe you and the offense started pressing a little bit?
Potentially got to go back and look at the film, honestly. But understanding what the success they were having on offense, I think that's kind of natural in a sense. And so it was things that we talked about of just staying to it, staying one play at a time. And in that sense, boom, there went the interception return for a touchdown right before half. Great play by that guy, and read it all the way. I got to read it better, and at that point, that was the I think that's what made it a little too far, especially with them coming out in the second half and continuing to have success. But nobody ever lost confidence on the offense. Even you could say we're pressing, we're trying to get it back. Nobody ever lost confidence. Understood that the only way for us to even have a chance was to take it play by play, and guys kept fighting. And proud of the guys for that.
Dak Prescott after a disappointing loss. I mean, you can hear it in both him and Coach McCarthy's voices there. You know, the stunning, shocking factor of the way they played and just how this one went. I don't think anybody really even saw it coming. Even the most pessimistic. I mean, maybe you could see, okay, Green Bay coming in here and winning. But the way in which this happened, where you had the 2 interceptions, the offense just looks out of sync and dysfunctional early, and the defense really throughout the entire game did not have an answer for the Green Bay Packers. This one was certainly unfortunate. I mean, he did note, with Mike McCarthy's future. He said, well, if you question his future, question mine as well. Add me to the list. He said all the success he had in 2023 was due to Mike McCarthy. You know, both of them have 1 year left technically on their deals. I mean, we did see the reports of Dak probably getting an extension this year because you can't go into next year with the cap hit that he's got.
Sure.
It's extraordinary. I mean, the Cowboys are going to do something with that, but interesting, that question with both of their futures heading into the offseason.
Would have never believed that Green Bay's offense was going to force Dallas's offense to play as bad as they did. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I thought that Dallas was going to be the one that was going to make Green Bay have to chase the game today. And it was Green Bay's ability to score and score often, convert third downs, move the football the way they did, run the ball as well as they did,
Explosive
plays. Everything that you thought Dallas was going to do to Green Bay is exactly what Green Bay did to them. And I think Green Bay's offense won this football game for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they made Dallas, and Dallas is a team that they're comfortable playing, they're comfortable playing a pretty high scoring game. But man, they you could tell they put a lot of pressure on Dak, and they put a lot of pressure on Mike McCarthy, and Green Bay's execution on offense was so much better than Dallas's execution on offense. And give Green Bay credit on defense. They've given up a ton on the running game, but what did their offense do? Their offense made Dallas one-dimensional.
They had to throw.
Yeah, Dallas had to throw the ball. Threw it 60 times this game. And Dak, what happened? Dak had 2 interceptions and 60 throws.
And there were times where, the coverage was really good. And Dak's, trying to extend plays, and he doesn't have anywhere to go with the football. And some of that was, maybe you can we'll go back and we'll see how the route combinations and the play design. Like there wasn't, there's questions there. But yeah, I mean, the linebacker play, we thought that would be an issue that they could take advantage of. And Ferguson ended up with a tremendous stat line.
Sure he did.
But it was those areas of the football game they weren't able to take advantage of early when the game was still in the balance until late, when this thing just felt very out of hand.
He's right. I mean, we all felt like, okay, they still have to play. That interception that was a pick six, that was he didn't say it, but, and Wayne Larrabee, his famous comment for the Packers, the dagger.
There is your dagger.
There is your dagger. And, little do we know, that might have been the dagger to kind of get that one taken care of for him.
More of your calls and texts as well. Plus, we'll get to CeeDee Lamb and his audio following this upsetting, disappointing, historic defeat, 48-32. Cowboys lose at home to the Packers. Their 16-game home winning streak at AT&T Stadium was snapped in what was a very exciting, a lot of bright moments in the 2023 season came to a heartbreaking, disappointing end once again in the postseason. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
The Medal of Honor.
Ferguson and a crowd at the Green Bay 40. Oh, there's a nice catch.
That is our What a Play of the Game, brought to you by WinStar. As the casino of the Dallas Cowboys, WinStar knows what it means to be a star with over 10,000 of your favorite electronic games. The all-new two-story WinStar Spa in Cascades, their luxury pool complex. WinStar really is the place to feel like a star. Please game responsibly. A tight window throw, about 3 Green Bay Packers in the vicinity. And Jake Ferguson, big biscuit, went up and snagged it. Hey, if you're looking for a bright spot, Jake Ferguson showed up today. He performed.
Showed up all year.
He did, and he has emerged. The questions of, right, how do you replace Dalton Schultz?
He did.
That's your tight end one now moving forward, and there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake Ferguson has figured out a way to, to play in big games and be productive. And, unfortunately, though, for the Cowboys, his play, it wasn't enough. They just could not get others going in this football game, and they really did. They got stressed out by how Green Bay played on offense. It stressed the Cowboys' offense out, and Green Bay, to their credit, I just saw a clip where Jair Alexander said, "Well, there's a list of quarterbacks that have thrown me multiple interceptions in my career, and add Dak Prescott to add to that list right there."
No doubt.
So that just that's hey. I'll tell you what, though, the Green Bay defense, they deserve it. If they want to be cocky today and walk crotch first and all that, by all means go ahead and do that, because you did a great job today of helping your football team.
877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. We'll hear from CeeDee Lamb here in just a moment. Let's go back to the phones. We've got Jerry in New Mexico. Jerry, you're on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, guys, in complete shock. I expected us to do to them what they did to us.
Yeah, sure.
And I think we got a little bit of fool's gold. I mean, when you look back on it, we ran away on bad teams, and we struggled to beat good teams. We should have lost it. We barely beat Seattle. Should have lost to Detroit, got blown out by Buffalo and San Francisco. And I don't know what the answers are.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if I'm running that team, everything is on the table.
No question.
There's nothing that's not on the table.
Yeah.
And that's from coaching, that's to personnel. There's no player that's untouchable. We do a good job of drafting, but we don't do a good job of second contracts. We don't get good return of investment when we sign these second contracts with these players. And I don't know what it is, but I do have a question for you, Brian. And I'm not saying we need to change coaches. I don't know. But if they do make a coaching change, what do you think about Jim Harbaugh?
Yeah, I don't even want to go there with Jim Harbaugh. I mean, I don't even want to go there to even the thought about it right now. I mean, to me, it's, as you mentioned, if it's me right now, when I'm thinking, I'm looking at this team and I'm going to sit down with McCarthy. If I was the general manager, I'm going to sit down with McCarthy and I'm going to have him walk me through why. Yeah. What is your plan going forward? Why are we having problems with you? We're doing a great job as in the regular season. We're winning the divisions. Why are we having these issues in the playoffs? And I want an explanation. And if the explanation that he gives me is not good enough, and I'm like, okay, what changes would you like to make? And then I need to see these things, because he did have Dak playing at an MVP level, though. He said he was going to do what he did. Dak didn't throw a ton of interceptions this year, like we thought, like, oh, he's such a gunslinger kind of guy, and he's going to throw interceptions. But they played at a very high level. The offense did a nice job, fool's gold and all that. But I am sitting down first and not making any big, Now, I will say this about Harbaugh, just my personal experience, because I had a chance to go work with him at Stanford, and then and it didn't work out. He wanted me to go, and I would have loved the opportunity. Mike Lombardi and I got his brother into the NFL. John is a special teams coach with us in Philadelphia.
Yep.
So the Harbaughs, Jim, if you look at what he did in San Francisco, is super impressive. But power running game, physical defense. Jim knows players. So. Yeah, it's one that I think that it depending on where Jim's at, what he wants to do, I like you said, I think all things are open, but I'd like to sit down with McCarthy and I want to know what his plan is. Okay, as gut-wrenching as that was for everybody, we've won 3 straight. We've had 3 straight seasons with 12 wins. Fine, I like that. Tell me what this plan is going forward.
Yeah.
And if I don't like the plan, then I'm going to say, well, that's okay. I'm moving on. And now we start to talk about the Belichicks, the Vrabels, the Harbaughs. Anybody that's open to to an opportunity to bring on as the head coach. But I'm having these discussions before I do anything.
Yeah, I mean, you owe it to Mike. Mike deserves that. I mean, you've had 3 straight 12-win seasons, but I think there's a disconnect with this team, Mike McCarthy, and playoff football. Yeah, I mean, 1-3 now in the postseason in his 4 years here.
Yeah.
So there's an issue there, and I think there's also an issue, when things aren't going well for you. You're not always going to be the front-running team where that can be perfect for you. Your offense gets a lead, and now your defense can pin your that's very telling when you're not a team over the last 2 years that has been able to come back and win a game when you faced a multi-touchdown deficit to me.
Right.
You have to. I mean, especially the NFL today with the passing and everything. It's built to be able to have comebacks like that. And Mike said that. So, I mean, you definitely need to have a look in the mirror, and everything's on the table.
I think, like I said, I'm not going to sit there. I don't believe that Jerry Jones, and I don't think I would do the same thing. I don't think I would definitely talk and find out why. Okay, what is your reasoning? Mm-hmm. And if your reasoning is not good enough, then that's when you look at Steven and say, we're going to make a change then at head coach. That or okay, I'm buying into what you're talking about here. And he's in the last year of his deal too.
Yep.
So I would definitely tell him, if I'm bringing you back, you're not, you know what? You're coaching for your job right now. I'm not going to give you an extension here. You're going to coach your 5th year. And you know what? If you find a way, if we do better than what we did this year, we'll talk about an extension, and I'll live with it. But if we don't, we're going to move on.
A lot of your insiders that have been making ties here lately to Bill Belichick.
Sure.
And the relationship he has with the Jones
family. They do. They're very close. Very, very close. And Mike Vrabel really does. I think Steven and Mike Vrabel might have served together on the competition committee. Am I right about that?
I think you are. Yeah.
And so I know Vrabel really, really respects the Joneses. So there are guys, and the caller made the motion about Harbaugh. If you make this move, I don't think it's going to be one of these just switch out, do the Rooney Rule and then get, like they did last time. You
actually have a lengthy coaching search.
They owe it to themselves. Now, the interesting thing to me, if you get a guy like Belichick here, I'm just saying, I'm not, I'm just saying.
If he did.
How much personnel decisions he's really good at evaluating, looking at players and talking about putting players in position to make plays. But the thing that killed him the last 3-4 years in New England was their roster stunk.
Yeah, they were not.
And he
was
the general manager.
Yes.
So if you're Will McClay, are you looking at this and going, "Hey, okay, I can help. Will can help any coach that comes in here." It's funny. We're not even talking about Dan Quinn anymore either, too. Everybody seems to now just kind of moved on. If you move on from Mike McCarthy, there was this big push of like, oh, do you want to lose Dan Quinn? And now we're kind of talking about other coaches other than Dan
and
Quinn.
Maybe they would still consider that. I think it's just hard with the way that this one
that
played
might
out.
Be the hire.
And the way it might end up being, you elevate Dan Quinn, maybe.
Yeah.
But goodness, the way that the that side of the football performed defensively, it's hard to imagine.
That's my gang is
my
7.
line of thinking of it, and it's interesting because you were there when Bill Parcells got hired.
I was.
So. To me,
I thought it was the greatest thing in the world until he fired me.
Okay, so exactly. But it's kind of come to the point now where we've seen this team have a tremendous amount of regular season success.
Right.
And then they fail in the playoffs. And I think you're starting to get some fans that are they're indifferent, they're tuning out. It doesn't matter until the postseason to generate a fan response and get some kind of excitement, are you getting that by just elevating a Dan Quinn? Or does Jerry say, you know what, I'm going to go do this, go get arguably the best coach to ever do it, it's Bill Belichick, and now you've ignited more excitement in the fan base because of the name?
Yeah, I believe that Jerry hired Bill Parcells so he can get this beautiful stadium built. You know, we couldn't run Butch Davis out there or Dave Wanstead or Dave Campo, that type, you know, I mean, you couldn't run somebody out there like that. The stadium had to get built.
Right.
You know, Jerry invested $25 million, I'm throwing it out there, as to get Bill Parcells so he can get this beautiful stadium
He needed
built.
that established name.
But he needed that name. That's why he got his plane and went to Teterboro Airport there in New Jersey and sat there on the runway while games were going and talking to Bill Parcells. Yeah. So it is. But there's things that Will and these guys can help these coaches coming in with. If these coaches trust, Will and these guys, which they absolutely should. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, we are putting.
Yeah, there's still a lot that has to happen.
Carts before the horses
who knows,
here.
You know, maybe Mike doesn't go anywhere. Maybe they run it back.
Oh no, that's the thing. That's the thing about it. The one thing that we do know is look at the list of the Cowboys' potential free agents. All the free agents they've got. You're losing a significantly good chunk of your football team that's been very, very productive for you this year.
877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text here on the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. Let's go to Stan in Plano. Stan, you're on the official postgame show with Zach Wolchuk and Brian Broaddus.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Stan.
Thanks for having me on. Zach, I want to get your thoughts on some of these comments. One, I thought I was having deja vu to 2017 when we pooped our pants to start the game against the Packers on that day, and again, history repeated itself. Secondly, I don't think we were playing well going into the playoffs. You know, we lost to Buffalo, we lost to Miami, we should have lost to Detroit. We didn't play great defense versus Seattle. Washington was they weren't playing for anything. And then finally, our stars disappeared. They were missing in action today. Micah Parsons had 2 tackles, and Dak Prescott reverted back to playoff Dak. He's 2-5 in the playoffs, and he's only had one good playoff game, and that was last year against the Bucs. And I knew we were in trouble when he missed that throw to CeeDee on that third down play, and he threw it way out in front of him. He couldn't catch it. And then the other throw he made to CeeDee to the sideline, which is like the back of his helmet or something. CeeDee should have caught the ball, but he didn't. I just don't see how we can invest $50 million a year in this guy if this is the result we're going to get in the playoffs every year. We're not, unless you just want to pay for the regular season. I'll listen to your comments.
Yeah, I appreciate the call, Stan. I mean, it did seem a little bit I was looking for some hope up there in the press box of, well Dak did bring them back and almost won the game when they got down 21-3 against Aaron Rodgers a couple of years ago. He is now 2-5 in the playoffs. I think, what's concerning is just the look of just a blank stare and disbelief. And when we've seen it now,
he's got no answers for you. That's a tough thing.
The San Francisco games, we saw it. We saw it when they panned to him against Buffalo today, early in this one. That is concerning, and that's when oh no, this thing's lost. He doesn't have an answer for you. Yeah. So to me, it's just one of those things where it's hard to find a quarterback. They're not drafting in the top 10. Now, this is a deep quarterback class.
It is.
If they wanted to look at that, and then they've got Trey Lance that they've been able to look at for a year. Because all options, I think, are on the table. But I do think ultimately what they're going to do is probably extend Dak and make him the highest paid player in the NFL, which will then get eclipsed very quickly with whoever is the next one within the next 6 months or whatever it is. But I think it's a fair question. I think you've got to evaluate it. Is there something to that in playoff games and big moments? And it's not just him. I think you look at, Mike is supposed to be one of your dogs. He's supposed to be one of your best players. And this is the first time all season they didn't have a single sack. Now, early in the game, Micah was being disruptive. He got held a couple of times. But that kind of went away, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think everybody's fair game to look at and say, I need more from you.
Yeah, I think I mean, I'm listening to everybody talk about this, and as you like this thing, it does. You hit the wall and it's a thud, and now I didn't expect to have off-season talk after a wild card game,
No,
but here we are, and they're going to have to make some really, really difficult decisions. And I think the first difficult decision will be is, do they want to move on from the head coach? Maybe that's not a difficult decision to a lot of people out there. But when you start to talk about things and the changes and stuff that you have to make with your head coach and getting rid of staff and hiring staff and all that stuff, it's that's why everybody loves continuity. That's why you love what goes on at Pittsburgh and Baltimore and places like that, where the coach stays for for a lot of years, and you kind of you have a feel for how you have to do everything.
Yeah, and look, I just think that's what they're going to do. Is this good enough to me? No. If they wanted to clean house and start from scratch, I'd be okay with that at this point.
Sure.
I think when you're 8 years in.
Would you be okay with moving on from the quarterback?
I would be.
Okay.
And I love Dak. I mean, he's one of the best human beings you'd ever meet in your life.
Sure.
But just and he's a very good quarterback. I think another team would be thrilled to have Dak Prescott.
Sure.
But here, I don't know. Maybe it's just not in the cards. Maybe it's just not going to happen. So if that's what you want to do.
Would you consider just go ahead and then and paying the – what is the cap hit on this thing?
I think it's $60 million.
Okay. Where are we now?
I can find out for sure.
Where are we now at signing guys? We're at 50. That'd be $10 million more, right? And this is even ridiculous talk to even talk about that.
Yeah.
I was sitting there thinking, just go ahead and play it out for the 1 year.
Oh, just for the contract?
Just for
see,
the
hey,
and then
is next year any different?
Yeah, because then if it works out, or you end if he doesn't play at a high level, then you're clear and free, and you've got others in place behind, and maybe you're in a situation too where you can draft another quarterback.
Yeah.
But maybe what is the number? Is it $60 million or something?
I think it is.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's just some ridiculous number like that, and
yeah, it's 61, almost 62 million.
Yeah.
Dead would be the dead cap. The cap hit is just under 60 million.
Yeah.
So, but there is a potential out going into the season if that's something you want. I mean, and again, I think all the conversations are to be had. Yeah. I don't think that they will do that. I really don't. Yeah. But today, I mean, it wasn't just on 4. You can point the blame to whoever the hell you want to point the blame on.
Yeah, the head coach, the defensive coordinator, the special teams coach. I mean, everybody took a turn today. I mean, hey, Bones Fossil's the one that put Sam Williams out there as the gunner, as he continues to, do crazy things, because kind of keep running with the same guys. So, yeah, players didn't play particularly well. Coaches didn't handle it very well. And there's a lot of guys that have to answer to the owner and general manager. That's the one thing that will never change. It's going to be the way it is. But, yeah, they're going to have some discussions here about the direction that, we're talking about, that we've talked about here for the last hour or so.
877-881-1053. More of your calls and texts, plus we'll get more sound from the locker room. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Every moment, every touchdown.
You watch the film, and you fix the small things. I feel like that's the only thing that we can do, obviously, given the situation. But, we try not to be repetitive and make the same mistakes, but so far we have. So.
CeeDee, all this stuff you guys did in the regular season, 12 wins, all those stats, all those great accolades, great achievements. Does any of it matter anymore?
Nope, not at all. Not at all.
That's the painful part about it, is that this is a new season. All that doesn't really matter what you did in 17 weeks.
Absolutely. 17 weeks is the season of its own, and then you got a full week after that. So whatever you do in those 4 weeks, that's how you will be lastly remembered. So, yeah.
What was Mike's message after this game?
Very disappointing loss. We understood the situation. We knew we were supposed to win the game, but came up short. Still a family.
CeeDee Lamb very disappointed, as is everybody in that locker room after a 48-32 loss to the Green Bay Packers. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus. Just a quick update on your other NFL playoff game. It's 24-17 Lions at home leading the Rams as they play with about 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. Let's get back to the phones and hear from you on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys. Let's hear from our guy, Big Jim in Round Rock, who's been waiting patiently. Big Jim, what's cooking, man?
Well, what I'll say about us, we're all disappointed in this performance today. I think everything that could be said has been said, but the thing that stuck out to me is the Green Bay Packers dictated it. They had a better plan today. Sorry, I'm outside. It's cold down here. Man. And I feel like our guys I think they're a little shocked and surprised. One thing that we talked about it, y'all talked about it, I listened, of course, all week long, talked about how I think there was a little fear and trepidation that they're going to try to come out and run the football. And maybe that's not what they should do. Brian, you said it. Hey, this is what you got. You're going to go with Dak Prescott. You're going to go with CeeDee Lamb. You're going to go with Michael Parsons. You know what you do well, and you're going to do it. And, man, I don't know. It just seems so off. But, I think it seemed we certainly all had high expectations. And, Brian, you said it a little bit earlier. You look at this list of free agents that we got.
Sure.
It's going to look fundamentally different.
A lot.
No matter what you do. Because you can't sign all those fellers. They're not coming back.
Nope.
We got some guys on 1-year deals, some guys coming to the end of 2-year deals. But, yeah, it's just real disappointing. And if you'd told me this score, fellas, I said, yep, Cowboys on top. That's what they did to the Green Bay Packers. Figured it'd be kind of a close game and that we'd kind of come ahead. But we got out-coached. We got outplayed. We got executed. I think we just got out-planned last week. That's what I think. Yep. You got to take your hat off that Green Bay coach. LaFleur, he's a smart fella, and he's got good coaches, and he knows how to get boys to play beyond themselves, and he did tonight. Love you, fellas, and I'll talk to you later, all right?
Thank you, Big Jim. Yeah, it's a young football team. 4th youngest team to ever be in the NFL playoffs, if I remember correctly. Youngest one certainly this year. And they played well today. You talk about some of those impending.
San Francisco for them.
They are on to San Francisco, where another team they haven't really been able to beat in the playoffs, so we'll see can they get revenge this year. But some of the impending free agents for the Cowboys, Tyron Smith, Tony Pollard, Stephon Gilmore, Dorrance Armstrong, Curse, Jordan Lewis, Fowler, Jonathan Hankins, Neville Gallimore, and Tyler Biotish would be your starters that are going to be hitting the free agent market. Can you retain all those guys? And then again, what do you do with the contract of your quarterback, Dak Prescott? A lot could depend on that as well. So certainly a lot of questions that need to be answered. Let's get one more call in here before we break. Let's go to Charlie in New Mexico. Charlie, what do you got, my man?
Hey guys, earlier you're all talking about it. You wouldn't mind it if they blew this team up. I wouldn't mind it either because here's the thing. We've got an 8-year starting quarterback who just can't win in the playoffs. He spits the bit in the playoffs. And when it comes to this coaching staff, it's not my decision, but it's my opinion. They need to clean house. And I've been calling into you guys a lot this year, and you probably know that I've never been a big Dan Quinn fan. And here's the thing. If this team does not get turnovers, This defense is mediocre at best, and this is week 18, and Dan Quinn has not figured out a scheme how to stop the run yet. So if he wants to go to Seattle or where he wants to go, I'm not going to cry or tear at all. So if they want to blow this thing up, I'm all for it, because I would rather go 8-8 instead of 12-5, 12-5, 12-5, and then it's fugazi. We go into the playoffs, bam, spit the bit. So we're January jokes. That's all we are.
Appreciate the call there, Charlie. January jokes.
Well said.
And that's exactly why the talking heads and the national media they get a joy out of this, making fun of the Cowboys' misery.
Absolutely will. Yep.
And it's starting to really tick me right off. And I know the Jones family probably right there with us, but yeah, it'd be nice for one of these years we look up and Cowboys are the team at the end there that's celebrating. We know this feeling all too well. It's the other feeling that we're chasing, and maybe they do just need to completely change because the fabric and the culture and identity of what they have now, maybe they can't get over that hump. Or who knows?
Well, like I say, it might be something, with you got to give McCarthy credit for the seasons. It's something fundamentally that happens to them in the playoffs. And whether that's, and I think you have to look at the quarterback. I think you have to look at the head coach. You got to clearly look at what Dan Quinn and them did, in this game. But yeah, I mean, to Charlie's point, he's right. Sacks, turnovers, but they didn't. Their injuries at linebacker killed them. Leighton Vander Esch and Overshown. I mean, we keep talking about Overshown, and we don't know what Overshown was going to do. But I knew one thing: when he played in that last preseason game, he played 6 plays, he had 3 tackles.
Yeah.
I'll take my chances. I mean,
it seemed like he had carved himself out a very important
role.
But
they didn't have any, other than Clark, and Clark had a bunch of tackles. A bunch of Clark. I mean, he led the team in tackles with 8 today. Well, actually, him and Bell were tied with 8. But man, I mean, it took Clark towards the end of the year to kind of start playing. But they played dime the whole entire season once those injuries hit. Once they lost Vander Esch, all of a sudden, 70% of their defense is dime, and when you play dime, it's all these defensive backs on the field. Mm-hmm. And you talk about how do you stop the run? Well, it's hard. It's hard when you're playing with guys. And Bell and those guys, you got to give them credit. Bell, Wilson, anybody that was playing down in the box at 212 pounds, you're asking a lot. I think he was trying to smoke and mirrors this thing, and it started to catch up with him. Well, it caught up with him a little bit tonight, but Detroit really didn't run the ball all that great. After the Buffalo game, they played a lot better run defense.
Yeah, there were times that they stepped up and they had the answer. But today
they didn't cover
they
worth a damn tonight.
The coverage was horrible.
The coverage was awful.
I mean,
tonight.
you can look at Gilmore. I think is going to show up.
Yeah.
and that's another. I mean, Gilmore was so good for most of the season. Bland as well.
The safeties, I mentioned the safeties.
Safeties were really bad.
Lewis, I mean, it just seemed like that they did not have a...
Was it communication? I don't know, but they were wide open, Green Bay Packers
way
today.
too wide open today.
All right, we will put a bow on this one, and I wish I could say look ahead to next week. But this will be our final segment of the 2023 Dallas Cowboys season, which is hard to believe. We will hear from our player of the game, and we'll try and get some of your last calls and texts in as well. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Prescott in the gun, first down at the Green Bay 14. Throwing this one in the end zone, leaping up Ferguson. He's got another one. Touchdown Ferguson, and he's going to have a 3-touchdown game, and no one's going to remember it.
Jake Ferguson, Big Biscuit, puts an exclamation point on a fantastic season for him. He is our player of the game. 10 catches, 93 yards, 3 touchdowns for Fergie today. Our player of the game brought to you by Jack Black. Want to use with the pros? Use Jack Black as the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit getjackblack.com today. Big Biscuit, Jake Ferguson catching up with the media after this disappointing loss to Green Bay.
Jake, I think you were saying a little while ago this is all about execution, and they were executing right off the top.
Yeah, I agree. I think the execution didn't come early for us, and the margin of error is tiny, especially in playoff football, and they were just executing better and for longer, and I think they were hot all game.
There's a lot of guys who were telling me they feel hurt right now. Are you one of them? I mean, how do you feel emotionally right now? Because this is a tough loss.
Yeah, I'm hurt. I know how hard these guys work. I know how hard this team worked, how hard everybody in our building worked, and it's a tough one to go out like this for sure.
And finally, can you say anything about the fan support showing up and wearing the white and the whole 9 yards?
Yeah, 100%. I love Dallas Nation. I want to play my whole career here. I love it here. Appreciate that, and let's just get it going for next year. I'm going to be working.
Thanks, Jake.
Yep.
There is Big Biscuit, Jake Ferguson, with our guy Chris Arnold, the 3-time Hall of Famer.
Heck of a year for him.
Really was.
Yeah.
He's a bright spot when
He
you're
sure
looking
is.
at some of the heartbreak from this one. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Brian brought us the final segment of the post-game show for this year. And let's try and get one more call in here before we wrap this thing up. I believe we've got Chris in Virginia. Chris, what's up, man?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I've been a Cowboy fan for over 40 years, and this is getting to be ridiculous. Jerry really needs to look at himself in the mirror because it all starts there. Mm-hmm. He needs to find a GM, and it needs to go from there. And it's just every year, great regular season, and it comes playoff time, and everything just puckers up. I just don't get it. I thought they had a good chance of going somewhere, going to the NFC Championship. They had everything at home. And then all of a sudden you lay an egg like that. It starts with the defense, and the defense got exposed in the Seattle game, and it just went downhill from there. And you don't have to worry about Quinn. Quinn's gone. I see him in Seattle. Yeah. So you got to clean house. If you have Belichick out there, you better get him because somebody's going to grab him.
Appreciate the call, Chris. Yeah, I'm sure they're going to be searching.
We'll see. This week we'll see.
We'll get answers in about a week or so.
Yeah,
it might not be, as you mentioned, tomorrow.
No. No. We'll be 2 or 3 days in. They'll have some meetings, and Jerry will figure some things out. And the GM ain't going anywhere, but, maybe they can move on from the coaches, or maybe they keep this guy and make some changes elsewhere.
Brian, as we, for the final time of this season, do this here at the Miller Lite Club, what are some of your thoughts as we put a bow on this Cowboys season?
Yeah, your quarterback said he wasn't going to throw some interceptions, and he didn't. He had an MVP type year. It's unfortunately it came to an end like this. CeeDee Lamb, we were all cheering for him on draft night. What a steal he was. Looks like a great player for the Cowboys going forward. Micah Parsons gave us some great moments as well. Tank, those guys, some veteran players. But, you talk about Ferguson and others. Nice year to win the division. It's just a shame that you get into playoffs right now and you can't get this thing going any further down the road. And that's the real problem with this thing. Regular season's great, but got to find a way to get this through the playoffs.
Heartbreaker, no doubt about it. I agree with you. Thank you for everybody who's called in, texted in, even if we don't always agree or see eye to eye. We love you, and I know we're on this all together. We just want to see this team succeed, and it's heartbreaking. Shout out to Peyton Russell, who's done an excellent job all year. Alec Medford filling in a couple of times. Ross Lubinsky, Justin Honore, Chris Strong, Larry Flores, Jeff Carroll, Rigo Mendoza. Those of you that have been a part of this one, of course, Ruben, who's been producing for us as well, DJ Pridemore, Gavin Spittle, Tim Collins, to Eric Chiafalo, and, of course, to you, Brian.
Thank you,
always
man.
a
Did
pleasure.
a great job this year. You really did.
Thank you,
Love
man.
working with you again.
We'll move on to draft season. We'll have the draft show as well. We'll look forward to that. But until next year, hugs and hand pounds, everybody. I'm sorry the season ended this way. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust.